Dane Keefe D. Davis, the arrested suspect in the Tupac case, has implicated rapper P. Diddy, real name Sean Love Combs, in the crime. Keefe claims that after Tupac's death, he was the one keeping Diddy safe, and allegedly, without him, Diddy would have been dead by now. In an interview from 2008, but resurfaced in October 2023, Keefe claimed that he attended a concert in Anaheim, California, after which he went to a party with Diddy and others at a hotel. He claimed Diddy said he would give anything for Tupac's head in a room full of Crips, gang members. Suge Knight was driving the car that Tupac was in when a drive-by shooting took the rapper's life in September 1996. Keefe later met Diddy at a deli where they discussed the hit, during which they agreed to $1 million for compensation. Keefe claims he was in Las Vegas already due to a previously made plan to watch a professional fight when they learned Tupac was there. He claimed a member of the entourage. The death of rapper Tupac Shakur in 1996 marked a significant turning point in the history of hip-hop and gang culture in the United States. His M in Las Vegas not only shook the music world but also had far-reaching consequences for gang violence, prompting Diddy to seek enhanced security. Tupac's life was marked by a tumultuous mix of talent, controversy, and personal struggle. Born on June 16, 1971, in East Harlem, New York, he grew up in a family deeply involved in Black Panther Party activism, which undoubtedly influenced his worldview. Tupac's involvement in the East Coast-West Coast hip-hop rivalry pitted the East Coast hip-hop scene, primarily centered in New York, against the West Coast scene, centered in Los Angeles, where Tupac was based. This rivalry escalated to a dangerous level, fueled by not only competition but also personal animosities between artists and their respective entourages. The feud with fellow rapper the notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie Smalls, exemplified the intensity of the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. Tupac's M fueled the flames of revenge among his loyal followers and gang associates. Many believed that members of the East Coast hip-hop scene were responsible for his death, and they sought retaliation. This desire for revenge became a potent force, escalating tensions and contributing to a vicious cycle of violence. Diddy, unfortunately, was caught up in all these, and he had to seek the likes of Keefe D to help him remain alive. Pac had been a prominent figure in the West Coast hip-hop scene, with influence over many individuals associated with gangs. His death left a void in leadership, leaving many feeling lost and directionless. This vacuum allowed for more aggressive and impulsive actions within these communities. Retaliatory shootings and acts of violence became all too common. Gangs used the rivalry between East Coast and West Coast hip-hop as a recruiting tool, capitalizing on the disillusionment of youth seeking belonging within gang culture. In 1996, Tupac Shakur was killed in a brutal shooting at his record label's new night spot, Club 662, which was a barely disguised telephone code for mob. The women in the Lexus behind him assumed that he was inviting them to his record label's new night spot, Club 662. A large, muscular arm emerged from its rear window and fired a barrage of shots from a .40 caliber Glock pistol into the BMW. Tupac was hit 4 times. The driver of the BMW, the Death Row Records impresario Marion Knight, better known as Suge, was grazed by the gunfire, but he managed to take off, making a U-turn over a traffic median and driving the wounded rapper in the opposite direction before pulling over. Malcolm Greenidge, a rapper and close friend of Tupac's who had been following them in the Lexus, testified this summer to a Las Vegas grand jury. Ether would die less than a week later at 25. Accounts of what happened on September 7, 1996 have existed in an unwieldy tangle of news reports, true crime specials, street gossip, internet innuendo, and dubious self-mythologizing. The case went cold, but with the recent indictment of Dwayne Keith Davis, a former Compton gang leader who has been saying publicly for years that he was in the white Cadillac when the fatal shots were fired, prosecutors have begun to map out the most detailed narrative yet of the chain of events they say led to Tupac's death, one that will be all tested in court. Tupac's music and public persona had taken on a darker edge following his 1993 arrest and subsequent conviction for sex abuse, as he aligned himself with the gangster rap label Death Row Records and its leader, Suge Knight. He orchestrated his $1.04 million bond pending appeal while still awaiting the verdict in the case. Pac had been ambushed, robbed, and shot in the lobby of a Manhattan recording studio, an attack he later blamed on his former friend, the notorious B.I.G., and affiliates of the New York-based label Bad Boy Records, including Diddy. They denied involvement, with Biggie claiming that his taunting track Who Shot Ye had been written before the incident. As tensions began to boil over as players from each side prepared to travel to Las Vegas to watch Mike the Essen fight Bruce Seldon at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. A brawl at the Lakewood Mall in Southern California set off a sequence of retaliation. Denvonta Lee, who said he was an affiliate of Compton's Southside Crips, told the Las Vegas grand jury this summer that Keefe D, who called himself the five-star general of the local Crips set, had given a local football player $4,000 to shop for clothes before heading to college and told other gang members to accompany him to the mall there. The group of young Crips collided with a death row-affiliated group of Mob Peru Bloods, their nearby rivals, resulting in a struggle over a death row chain. While in Las Vegas, the heavyweight fight between Tupac and his entourage of Bloods ended in a Tyson knockout. Keefe D, a successful drug dealer and shot caller for the Crips at the time of Tupac's death, wrote in a 2019 memoir, Compton Street Legend, that on the night of the shooting, he obtained a Glock pistol from a drug associate from Harlem before setting out with Anderson to find Pac and his boss, Suge Knight. The two played Pop Warner football together. Keefe had found himself enmeshed throughout the 1990s in the growing gangster rap nightlife scene. But his relationship with Death Row soured as the label became more closely associated with the Bloods. He instead aligned himself with their cross-country rivals at Bad Boy, supplying his Crip soldiers as West Coast security for the label's artists and executives in exchange for access to concerts and parties. Following a failed stakeout targeting Pac and Knight at Club 662, the white Cadillac that Keefe D and Anderson were riding in came upon Tupac's BMW dance, spotting him as he leaned out from the passenger side. According to witness testimony and law enforcement accounts, Terrence Brown was driving the white Cadillac that night. Keefe rode in the front passenger seat with Anderson behind him, and DeAndre Smith, known as Big Dro. In the aftermath, speculation spread in Compton and beyond that. Anderson had pulled the trigger as retribution for his beating at the MGM. The indictment of Keefe D does not identify the shooter, stating that he provided the gun to Smith or Anderson with the intent that said, co-conspirators commit said crime. Eager to share his story after recovering from colon cancer, Keefe began talking publicly about the case. His later public disclosures were not protected, legal experts said. After giving his first public interview on the subject of Tupac's death for a 2018 docuseries called Death Row Chronicles, Keefe wrote about the case in his memoir. His interviews on the subject, including with prominent YouTubers, grew looser and looser. But what Keefe didn't know is that police officers and prosecutors in Las Vegas were watching his interviews closely. Since 2019, he has appeared at least 8 separate times in promotion of this book and repeated various versions of these events, all of which he acknowledges that he is in fact the person that ordered the death of Tupac Shakur.